Good Sunday morning to you. You're listening to Straight Talk right here on 102 JAMZ, and we were just talking about voting, but we're going to switch it all over. We're going to talk to Blanca Cobb for the next hour, and we're going to talk about body language. So you're a body language expert. First of all, introduce yourself and tell us more about body language and being an expert in that.
Well, I'm a body language expert, and so what that means is I notice the subtleties of nonverbal communication that most people miss out on.
Okay.
So it's not the obvious,
Yeah.
right? If someone walks away from you, you don't need a body language expert to tell you that person isn't interested.
Right.
It's the subtleties. It's the facial expressions. It's the little slight shoulder shrugs. It's those.
You can tell on the shoulders?
Oh, my gosh,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
You can tell from the shoulders. You can see tension in the shoulder lines and the jaws. You can see glares of the eyes, the nostrils flare.
See, this is making me nervous right now a little bit. Can you see that?
As you should be.
So that's pretty awesome that you can notice that. How do you start this? How do you get to learn somebody's body?
Paying attention.
Yeah, okay.
See, what happens is when we're talking to someone, we're so interested in what in the world we're going to say next that we don't pay attention to what we're seeing. Depending on the research study, up to 65% of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
So what that means is your facial expressions, your gestures, how you hold yourself, how you use your voice.
Yeah.
All has an impact on the message you're trying to convey. Whether you're being authentic or whether you're trying to hold something back or whether you're trying to skirt an issue. So
tell me about this. To the audience that may be listening, they may be thinking about, okay, I've never thought about this type of stuff before. You know, how may somebody's body language maybe hold them back from getting a job or maybe hold them back from, getting a date? They may not even know about it. What is something that people can probably do to help themselves out with this?
Well, I'm hearing two questions. Well, one, what happens is if you're nervous, you're going to show that nervousness.
Okay.
All right. People might start playing with their cuticles. They might start rubbing their hands or rubbing their legs. When one part of your body touches another part of your body and rubs it, in my world, it's called either pacifying behavior or manipulator. Okay. If you think about it, when a child gets hurt.
My hands were together, so I just took my hands apart.
We'll talk about baseline in a minute. But if you think about when a kid gets hurt, right?
Okay,
What does a mom usually do? Comes up and might rub the arm and say, honey, it's okay.
Right.
All right, so it makes you feel better. Well, as adults, we do the same thing, except we're not thinking of our mom at the time. It just helps soothe us. It's a way of calming us down.
Okay. Right now, I'm standing with my elbow on the console right now, and then I have my left hand on my right wrist.
Yeah.
So you've been around me for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
What have you seen from me?
It's just comfort.
Okay.
It's just comfort. Yeah. I mean, if you
good.
look at your fingers, they're nice and relaxed.
Okay.
It's not like you're gripping that wrist.
Ah.
Right. I mean, you're not doing that. I mean, there's no tension that I'm noticing in your face or in your posture.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So, how can, let's say somebody's listening right now, if they want some help with this, how can you help them out?
Oh, well, there are two different ways I can help people.
Okay.
Probably more. One is I have a lot of coaching clients. So people want to work with me directly. All right. And I work one-on-one with folks in all different types of aspects of their life, whether it's relationships, they want to start going back in the dating world and they've been burned before, they've been deceived, not necessarily infidelity, even though that does happen a lot. It could be, their partner had a gambling problem or an addiction problem, right? So it's trying to figure out if I'm going to start dating again, how do I know this person's being authentic with me?
Right.
Or they don't know how to pick up on the signs of whether someone's really interested in them. They miss the flirting signs. Or they don't know how to flirt because they're so blooming nervous that it just comes across as stiff. And the other person is like, yikes,
I can't lie. I was that guy that missed out on the signs of flirting for a long time, probably until I was maybe about 20. So I missed out on, maybe some potential dates when I was younger because I didn't get it. Yeah. And then at the same time, I probably didn't know when somebody was not interested. So I guess after a while, I started being able to pick up on it. So if you're out there, if you're listening, 680 or 730-1021, maybe you have a question about your body language. Yeah. Maybe you have a question about somebody else's body language, and you can ask Blanca right now about it. I should have got you some headphones so you could hear. I should have prepared ahead of time, so I'll lay mine down. 680 or 730-1021. Who's this?
This is Asia Riddle.
All right, you calling for Blanca Cobb about your body language?
My what?
No, you're not. Okay, so let's move on. So let's talk about this. We just finished talking about voting and candidates. So if somebody else wants to call up, we'll talk about that. But were you able to look at candidates during the elections, whether it was for different? I guess the what do you call? I'm losing my mind right now. The debates, any debates or whatever, and see these candidates and see like maybe certain things in their posture. Do you look at some of these candidates and say this person isn't all the way telling the truth, or I don't know if I can trust this person?
Yes, but I did not for this election. I did for the presidential election.
Okay. What were some of your impressions during that one?
For the presidential election?
Yes.
Oh my gosh! Okay, now we're really using my memory. So, so I have to pause here. And for all those listeners, when somebody pauses, you have to think about when they pause. So in this case, I have to go back a couple of years and think. So this would be a normal time to pause. A lot of times people jump to the conclusion, oh, if they're hesitating, they must be lying. They're holding back.
Yeah.
But you have to think about the context. All right, let me think. All right, there was in the VP debate with Ryan and
Joe Biden. Yeah.
All right. I remember a time when Biden looked directly into the camera and he was talking to the seniors, the senior Americans. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was a really impactful moment because it was him having a one-on-one discussion, looking directly into the camera and really reaching out to those voters. And I really liked that because it rarely happens. What happens in debates is that the candidates will look at the audience or they'll look at their opponent. And that was just a really significant moment for me. I was like, whoa.
Was there ever a time, and I know you have to go back in the memory bank,
yeah,
where you looked at somebody, a candidate, and it was just like, I don't know about this guy?
Yes, and now I'm trying to think.
No,
that's so far back. I can't. Someone said whispering in my ear about Clinton. I'm like, whoa, that was like really a long time ago. I'm sorry, Chris. I'd have to look at some video, and I could say
that would be something just good to see. Has there been anything recently, maybe about the Mike Brown situation where the police chief was talking, or maybe something that's been in the news recently, anything like that you've noticed? And you've seen, maybe certain things that you want to, hey, like this situation may not seem as good, or this person's being genuine.
Well, how about the Ray Rice situation?
Oh yeah, let's talk about Ray Rice.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Did you hear, listeners? Did you hear that voice change?
Yeah,
someone's excited about talking about it.
See, yeah, because that's something we've talked about here, and domestic violence has been a huge thing. So, what about the Ray Rice situation?
Well, I looked at the video.
Okay.
In the elevator, and this man, in my opinion, had no regard for his then fiance.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell as soon as she fell down. He did not bend over. He didn't check. He drags her out of the elevator. And when she's out of an elevator, there's a strange woman, I'm assuming is someone who's unknown to them, who comes up to see if his fiance is okay. And I think he messes with her shoe that's on the ground. And then when this lady is helping his fiance, he's standing back several feet with his hands in his pockets, and he has his feet shoulder width apart. That's all I could see in the video. There's just no regard. And what that indicates to me is, one, there's lack of empathy and lack of knowledge of what he really did.
Yeah. Now, do you think, obviously he was probably inebriated. Does that matter in a situation like this? Obviously he doesn't get a pass, but does that change somebody's body language? Does that change somebody's thought process that much to where, the person who's really behind that's not inebriated is impacted?
We have to take each person for what they're doing at the time. And sure, when people do get drunk, inhibitions go down. They may talk in a manner that they normally don't. For example, they may talk more sexual. They may talk more aggressively. They may start using more vulgar language.
Yeah.
I mean, so it can definitely change your personality. But come on, I don't think he was that drunk. It's not like he was falling over in the elevator.
True.
I mean, come on.
True.
He was. I didn't even know he was drunk until you just told me.
Yeah. Well,
he looked normal to me. It's not. He wasn't swaying.
Right.
I mean, come on. There's so many people who are tipsy or drunk, and they can still help someone.
Right.
I just don't see that as an excuse. Just like when people say, "Oh, I was so drunk, I couldn't help it."
Now, I want to ask you this, and maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but Roger Goodell came out and he basically said when the actual video came out from within, before the video that we had was just the video of him dragging her out, then it was kind of murky for some people. I remember thinking, because I've worked at a nightclub before, and I know that they just came from a casino, and it was just like, okay, well, maybe she was drunk and he was dragging her out, and he was drunk, he didn't quite know what to do, so that's why it didn't look like he really had that much regard. But then the video comes out, and you see him actually punching her in the face. Roger Goodell says that video wasn't made aware to him when he punished Ray Rice. Did you see Roger Goodell talk about that? Okay.
No, I didn't.
Because I'd be interested to know, in as far as, if you saw Roger Goodell, you could maybe see something based on his body language. Like, I don't know, maybe he knew something and he's covering for himself.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility, but I can't speak to it because I haven't seen any video. Okay.
Has there been like I asked before, has there been a situation like that where maybe somebody said something to the public or addressed the public in something, and you've been like, at home sitting there, thinking like, I don't know about this?
Yeah, sure. Roger Clemens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you knew Roger Clemens,
There's more to the story. Lance Armstrong, there's more to the story. John Edwards, there's more to the story. You can tell. When John Edwards was asked by Bob Woodruff if he was in love, hold on, I have to go back in memory. So I want to make sure, I'm not sure if I'm quoting this right, but so I'm going to paraphrase. I think Bob Woodruff asked something like, are you in love with your wife? Okay, this is when Bob Woodruff was in Chapel Hill interviewing John Edwards in his home, okay, that he shared with his then wife, Elizabeth Edwards. And he starts giggling. He starts giggling, and I believe he does a shoulder shrug. Well, what's funny about that question?
Yeah.
Either you are or you're not in love with your wife. What's funny about it? Did it make him uncomfortable?
Yeah.
So I was like, no. It just didn't fit the context. John Edwards is not a giggly type of guy.
Right.
In the media interviews that I've seen. Now, how he is in his private life, I have no idea. I don't have access to that knowledge or information.
Yeah.
But in videos that I've seen, he's very charismatic, and he just gets straight to the point. So
in that situation, you looked at it and said, no, he's not in love with his wife. He's putting on the front for everybody.
Yeah. There's only one woman I've loved, I believe he said, for 33 years or something, or over 30 years. Again, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Okay. But what's funny about that?
Yeah.
And then I believe he looked away even. I'd have to go back and review the video.
Right.
And I'm just like, come on, no. And then you have A-Rod when he was talking to Katie Couric about steroid use.
Yeah, let's talk about A-Rod.
I mean, A-Rod, he had this look of contempt. And for listeners out there, what it is, it's a unilateral expression. So it's like a smirk on your lips. And it's one side of your lips that just kind of go up. And it's really fast. It's like super fast, like within a blink of an eye. A-Rod was doing that. I can't even tell you how many times when he was talking to Katie Couric about not using steroids. And so, I looked at that. I'm like, huh. And just so you know, that micro expression of contempt, that indicates superiority. It's almost like nanny, nanny, boo, boo. I know something you don't know.
Yeah, okay.
It's like you're hiding something.
Yeah, and it's like a quick something that it's like, okay, like I've got you on this one, but I'm just going to say something.
Yeah.
Okay.
They know the truth. They think you don't know the truth. But here's the deal. There's such a cognitive load when you're lying with somebody, because you have to think about what you're saying, how much of it is the truth, how much of it isn't the truth. Then you have to remember what in the world you said and when, and to whom,
right? Because
you want to make sure your story's consistent. Then you have to look at the other person to see if they're buying it. If they're not buying your story, then you have to think, okay, what do I need to do to get them to believe me?
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How much of that is in somebody's eyes, as far as being able to look at somebody in the eye and say, like, okay, this person may not be straight up with me? Because I've noticed a few times in my life, I may look at somebody and I don't know them very long. Maybe I just met them.
Yeah.
But it's something about their eyes that it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. I don't think this person is being totally straight up with me. I think this person is putting on a little bit. And then there's been other times where I feel like I can trust somebody just like that. That's one of the things I was talking to my wife about, is how the trust that we had with each other when we first met each other that I've never had with anybody now. She's my wife. Yeah. But it's like it was it was amazing how fast I could open up to her versus maybe I've met some people who, initially it's just like, I don't know about this person. How much can you tell as far as in people's eyes?
That is an excellent question, and it's one of the biggest myths out there.
Okay.
And that if you're looking at someone
mm-hmm.
and they're talking, and then they look away from you, it means they're lying.
Mm-hmm.
Or they look up and to the right or down and to the left, whatever.
That always just comes across as people being nervous to me.
But all of it is bull. There's no scientific research to support that at all. Whether someone looks away from you when they're talking or they look in different directions, there's no correlation between lying and eye movements.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because there's people, and nobody, obviously this is radio, so you can't see me, but there's people who will do this to me. Like, they may be talking to you and they'll just do this, kind of look out the side of their eye to you. And that's one of those things for me. It's like, wait a minute. Why can't you just look at me straight on like you're looking at me, but you're looking at me like with the side eye talking the whole time. And it seems shifty. It seems like, you've got another motive that you can't all the way look me. It's different when some people, like, I just looked away from you right there because I was trying to collect my thoughts. And I've known people who maybe look up when they talk to you or they look down, and that just seemed nervous, the up or down thing or the quick side and coming back. But the totally, like, turning your head and looking out of the side of the eye, that just seems weird to me.
Well, it does, and I'm going to tell you why. Because they're shifting their body away.
Okay, so it's more about the body than I.
Yeah, and it's also about clusters of behavior.
Okay.
So you're not only shifting your body away, but you're turning your head away from the person, then you're giving them a side glance. Okay, you've got two different behavior changes that I would assume is different from their baseline, and it's probably a good time for me to talk about baseline.
Okay.
So when you see that, and you have a stimulus, if there's a change in topic or a question that you're asking, and then they start doing something different than how they normally handle themselves, and that's like an aha moment. But here's the deal. You have no idea why. And what gets people into trouble is when you start becoming a mind reader. Okay. And you think you know what's going on in the other person's head. It could be that it just makes them uncomfortable. Maybe it brings back a memory of a bad situation for them or a situation that they're currently in that maybe you don't need to know about because it has nothing to do with you or impact your relationship.
Right.
And they want to keep it to themselves. So there's 1,000,001 different reasons. But so many people get into mind reading, and it can ruin relationships. So what baseline is you have to figure out what's normal for somebody, how they carry themselves. So it's what we consider small talk, right? Cops will do it before they start questioning people. You want to bring down somebody's nerves, right? Because you don't want them to be uncomfortable when they're talking to you. So when you talk to folks initially, you start asking them questions that are non-threatening. No reason for them to lie. You want to see how they hold their head, how they look at you, how much eye contact they give you. When you ask them questions that they have to think about, like I did earlier when you were asking me about presidential debates of several years ago. What is their pause like? Where are they looking? Do they use their hands when they're talking? How do they use their voice? How do they project it? Or do they do a body lockdown where they're just super stiff and they're just staring at you?
Yeah.
So when you figure out what's normal for someone, then when you see the changes, then it's like, aha, and that's where you start having to ask questions. And I say the types of questions that you ask are ones that are non-threatening, that'll still give someone an out. You want people to save face. Because if they feel threatened or they're like under a police interrogation, they're going to shut up. They're not going to talk to you.
Right.
So questions you can ask are, correct me if I'm wrong. It seems to be. I'm getting the sense. Do you see how they're non-threatening?
Right. Now, okay, we're just to remind you, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Blanca Cobb. She is a body language expert, so she can help us out when it comes to body language and what cues we're giving to somebody, or maybe how we can figure out cues from somebody else. I want to be a better broadcaster, better interviewer, and you've only had a small sample of time to be around me in person. We did an interview for my podcast a few days ago, and that's going to come out later on, and so that was about 30 minutes there. So, but actually in person, it's only been about 20 minutes. I want to be a better broadcaster. What can I do for my body language to make somebody more comfortable? You're a vet, so you're already more comfortable with this, but if this is somebody's first time on radio, what can I do to make myself, more comforting to the person that's sitting across the table from me?
I think you're doing fantastic. okay, I have to describe to the listeners. He is completely facing me. So his torso is facing my direction. He's looking at me. His head is looking at me. So everything, all frontal here. This is from the waist up, folks.
Yeah.
It's all is in my direction. And we have like 4 feet in between us, okay? All right, so that is engaging.
Yeah.
You're not covering up. You're not acting nervous. You're giving me good eye contact.
Right.
All right? And you smile. And so many people forget to smile. The power of a smile can really bring someone comfort.
Yeah.
Particularly someone who's not used to being interviewed or talking into a mic.
Right.
It's just friendly. If you think about it, if you see 2 people and one scowling or expressionless,
yeah,
and one is smiling, who are you going to go to? You're going to go to the one who's smiling.
Right.
It's friendly. It doesn't matter what country you're in or what language you speak. It's friendly as long as it's genuine. Yeah. And you know a genuine smile because you see the crow's feet on the side of the eyes. That wrinkle. I throw out that exasperation because as you mature, you just get more and they get deeper. But it's a sign of genuine happiness.
Okay.
However, though, sorry to interrupt you. The one thing that I hear you say is you know. And here's the deal. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
I don't know. You say that a ton. I mean, I heard you when I was driving in. You're like, you know. I'm like, no. And the more I kept listening to you, I'm like, I know. I'm going to say, you know, during the broadcast. And I've already caught myself saying it.
For me, it's one of those things where, and I just joined Toastmasters recently because I want to get rid of those, the uhs, the ums, you knows, the filler words and things like that. Yeah. People think just because I'm on radio that, or I'm on television that, I'm not nervous. Well, I am. I'm an introvert, so I just said it right there.
You just said it twice.
I did?
You just said it twice.
Oh my gosh. I didn't catch it. So anyway.
It's a pause.
Now I'm trying to think of it now.
Pause, seriously.
I was going to say it right there, and I just caught myself. So the reason why I do it is because I'm trying. I almost did it right there. That's another time. The reason why I do it is because I don't think my brain works fast, but my mouth doesn't work as fast as my brain does.
Right.
So I guess I have to have filler words to go through everything, and I'm still an introvert as well. So I'm turned on right now. Not like that.
That's kind of early.
Not like
and
that.
Your wife's not here.
Not like that. But you're an attractive lady, and Ditra's attractive as well. But
well,
just said it right there. I'm just gonna be thinking about it all the time. Just said it right there. But that's one of the things I want to work on because right now I'm on, but usually I'm off. If I'm I just said it right there. But when I'm at home, I could just be in my zone. So I just said it again.
Yeah, you did.
Now I don't feel like talking.
I'll take over the show then.
It's your show now. I'm just gonna sign off. It's your show.
The Blanca Cobb show from 7 to 8 on Sunday mornings on 102 JAMZ.
Oh man. Now I have to really. But is that something that you look at too, as far as the knows, the ums, the ahs, and things like that?
And the reason I cue in on it is because I'm very well versed in statement analysis. So what that means is I analyze people's grammar when they're talking, when they talk about events that happened in the past. Because I will get telephone calls from cops, some attorneys, and say, hey, look, this is a situation that's come up. This is what a potential witness, or not potential witness, but an alleged suspect or witness has said. So I will look at a statement and I will analyze it and look at hot spots. So when somebody, in my world, in the detecting deception world, when somebody says it's a way of convincing you, like we're on the same team. So if you know what I know, then I don't have to explain it anymore. And so this is not how you're using it.
Okay.
And as you admitted earlier, it's just a filler.
Yeah.
People don't like pauses. People don't like quiet. It's like you feel you always have to say something, and you don't.
You know what I think? And I just said it right there. What I think developed it for me was radio, because it's dead air. Dead air is terrible in radio. Like,
sure.
That right there is scary for anybody that's ever been in radio, because just that few seconds and I know that when people are listening, they may hear sound and they may not hear sound. And once they hear that silence, it may get their attention or they just might turn it. So I think for me, especially now having a talk show where before I was only talking for 15 seconds on the intro of a song, now I'm talking for 2 hours. I've got to make sure that I'm saying something. So I think it's what helped develop for me is doing this.
We'll have to work on it.
We'll have to work on that. Let's take a quick little song break, and then we're gonna come right back. If you have any questions, she's a body language expert, and maybe you have a question in your life or something that's going on in your particular situation, 680 or 730-1021. That is the number to call. Let's listen to Miguel really quick. We'll be right back. Straight Talk on 102 JAMZ. Good Sunday morning to you. Listening to Straight Talk right here on 102 JAMZ, and we're talking to Blanca Cobb. She is a body language expert. We've been talking about body language. I got to get this mic together. We've been talking about body language and, how it can impact your life, maybe who's lying, who's not, if somebody's telling the truth on something or if somebody's being deceiving on something. Now, we didn't talk about your qualifications before. We just kind of went straight into it. So maybe you want to talk about some of your qualifications.
Sure. I have a background in psychology.
Okay.
So I have a bachelor's and a master's from Chapel Hill. Go Tar Heels. And then NC State.
That's another discussion. Right there. I'm a Duke fan.
Oh gosh, I don't even know why we're in
You're
the
a Duke
same
fan too,
building.
Deidre? Oh, awesome.
Oh gosh, okay, time
You're
to go.
outnumbered.
We're wrapping it up. Wrapping up
You're
the show.
outnumbered
I'm
right
out.
now.
I know. Okay, Carolina Blue, true and true.
Yeah.
All right, and then I got a master's in psych from NC State.
Awesome. So how does that work out? Just we're going to go off topic just a little bit. How does that work out? Are you torn between Wolfpack and Carolina?
I never had an allegiance to the Wolfpack.
Oh, it's just simply
That's
just
because an undergraduate, you make the time.
Yeah.
And you do fun things. You go to the games, right?
Yeah.
And you party and
Yeah.
whatever you decide to do, whether it's sorority, fraternity, I did it all and met some really cool people. But at State, when you have 3-hour classes and you have research projects and
Right.
No. And besides, I was already Carolina Blue. It was so hard. Like, I never even went to a game on NC State's campus. Football, basketball, nothing.
My wife is similar. Like, she went to the School of the Arts for undergrad.
Oh,
we
cool.
went to UNCG for graduate school, and that's where I went to undergrad for is UNCG.
Yeah.
And so, like, she'll never claim to be a Spartan.
Yeah.
She's always like, no, I'm a pickle. I'm like, pickle? Like, you guys don't even have a sports team. Like, you at least go for UNCG for something. And that's actually one of the reasons why we're getting off topic totally. But that's one of the reasons I didn't go to Carolina for journalism. They have a great journalism school. But I've grown up a Duke fan, and I really was just like,
I'm
no.
sorry. I hate it for you.
Hey, it's been very fruitful for me so far.
Yeah, okay.
So let's go forth. Maybe let's talk about this though. Since you're a Carolina fan, let's talk about Rashad McCants and that whole situation. He's a basketball player that played for Carolina, and recently, when everything kind of came out with Carolina saying with the fake classes, and he was one of the basketball players that said that he took a fake class or just so he could get his, I believe, 2005 when you guys won a national championship. Did you get a chance to? But now that national championship may be taken away.
Oh, you're killing me. It's Sunday morning. Stop.
It may be taken away. Who knows? That's one of those things that may happen. But I guess you didn't get a chance to see him talk about it. But he was one of the players that came out and said, hey, yes, I did take fake classes. And there were classes I didn't have to show up to. And there are a lot of Carolina players who went to school with him at the time or played with him at the time who were saying, hey, no, I don't know what you're talking about. We went to actual classes. Then there was an independent study done, and then it actually showed that between 91, maybe, I think I have that year wrong, in 2000, no, I'm sorry, it was 94 and 2003, 2013, excuse me. So it was 19 years where there were fake classes. There was over 1,300 students who partook of these classes. Most of them were athletes. So, so you didn't get a chance to see that, but I just wanted to, if you did, just your take on maybe, his body language as he was presenting it, because there's a lot of people painting him out to be a liar right now.
Yeah, well, I can't speak to it. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
But I hung with a couple of the basketball players when I was at Chapel Hill, 3 of them actually, and they went to classes.
Yeah.
But that is before the time that you're talking about. I'm talking about 92, 93.
Really? Mm-hmm. You look really young.
Thank you, darling. I'll take that any second of the day.
I was going to say, like, maybe
I'm
you
like
were
aging gracefully.
I'm thinking about the time period. I'm like, okay, maybe she went to school with like Ray Felton or something like that. But he's a little bit older than me, so I'm thinking like early 30s or something. Okay.
Oh my God.
But that's
yeah.
good. So you're able to keep yourself looking young. So tell us a little bit more about what you do as far in the Body Language Institute in Washington D.C.
Yep, I'm a senior instructor there.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
When I first got into the business, into this profession, I had seen a clip of Janine Driver, who owns the Body Language Institute. She's the president of the Body Language Institute in D.C. And she was promoting her first book, and I decided to take a class. And she's former DEA. She worked there, 15, 16 years, and then she chose to retire. And when I took a class over the Body Language Institute with her, she looked at me and said that I was a natural in terms of how to read body language and figuring out when people are lying and presentation. Because a lot of what I do, I have to be able to talk to other people, to explain it, to help people understand, right? So she approached me and said, I really want for you to consider becoming an instructor with me here at the Body Language Institute. And I was like, really? I'm thinking to myself, well, you don't really know me. I was like, okay.
She read your body language.
I guess so. And the doubt that you just heard in my voice. Yeah. So anyway, I continued to train with her, and then I trained with other experts, a lot of statement analysis experts who are involved in research or in the field. And I've become really good at what I do.
Yeah.
And so that opened a door for me, and that's how it all started. And after all of my training, Janine asked me to come on board as a senior instructor at the Body Language Institute. And so even though I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, and she's out of D.C., I'll fly up periodically to teach classes with her.
That's awesome. Looks like we have one caller. I just want to see if they're calling about this. 680 or 730-1021 if you want to call up. Are you calling up to talk to Blanca Cobb about body? No, you're not, because they hung up. So if you want to talk to Blanca about any body language, if you have a question, maybe something that you're trying to figure out with a spouse, or maybe a coworker,
potential romantic partner, something going on with your teenager,
that's
boss,
a great one. That is
colleague.
a great one. Yeah, just call up and we can know about it. But I want to also I had a question and it just left me.
It'll come back.
It just left me. But let's go to the phone lines really quick. 680 or 730-1021. Do you have a body language question for Blanca Cobb?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what is it?
Well, my job or my career that I've chosen, or it chose me, is in the mental health field. So I have been looking some way to kind of get into the body language. And I can talk to people very naturally, but I don't know where else to carry it. Does that make sense?
No. What do you mean? You don't know where else to carry it?
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear her?
Yes, now I can hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm actually coming home from work. But
do a check really quick, Blanca, just make sure that... Can you hear Blanca talk?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So help me understand what you mean. I'm not sure I understand your question. Can you explain it again in a different way?
I work in behavioral health, and
yes.
I was going to be a nurse. But my 25 years, the most natural thing was to talk. And I really don't know how to really carry it. My first thing was to advice and coaching, because I'm really, really good at it, even though I don't give myself much credit when I say that. And I just want to know how to get involved in what you're doing with the body language.
You want to know how you can better learn people's body language so you could use it for your job.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
and see, I've been in it for 25 years, but I'm like, how can I get into what you're doing?
Oh, one thing is that it's a longer conversation than we have on the air, but you and I can link up off air, and I'm happy to explain how to get involved, and then how I can help you in that journey.
Okay, that'd be great, because we have a lot of, behaviors at our facility. And a lot of people ask us, where would you get this? How would you just going to be a missile and this for the rest of your life? How would you, and I just really wanted to know how people will perceive that as going into your own business or teaching or...
Awesome. Well, she can. You can take down her website information. I'm sure you can email her through her website, and maybe you guys can link up afterwards. What's the website information?
It's BlancaCobb.com.
BlancaCobb. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, 680-730-1021. Do you have a question for Blanca Cobb? Hello?
Yeah, I do have a question. Okay. I want to know, how can you read the body language of the police officers when they pull you over? Because I've been pulled over sometimes, and, for nothing at all, that they'll say I fit a description or, and I get this glare out of their eyes, the evil hate, and I think it's racist. I'm like, how do you read the way that the police look at you?
Well, you would read a police officer just like you would read anybody else. And in a situation where a police officer is pulling you over, you have to look at it from their perspective. This isn't a happy-go-lucky time for them because they have no idea who's sitting in the car. For example, you. They don't know if you have a gun. They don't know what your intentions are. I have no idea why they're even pulling you over. So there's a lot of unknown factors.
But if you say they don't know if I have a gun, or, they don't know that I do have a gun either, you know what I mean? So
yeah, they don't.
To me, I always thought that it's, you see on their badges, protect and serve, and I never, you don't get that, I don't get that feeling from them. I get a deep sense of hate, like I'm in danger. They really make me nervous with a lot of the stuff that's going on, and it makes me nervous, from their body language. The police make me nervous because of their body language, And
I have a question. I have a question. Hold on. Let me pose this. So you're nervous, Blanca. Is there something maybe that I can do with my body language if I'm in a situation like that to make the other person more comfortable with me? If I feel like this is continuing to happen to me, is there something maybe I can do to change myself? So maybe in these situations, I can come off a better or a little bit less threatening to somebody else?
That's an excellent question you bring up, Chris. And yes, I would say if you get pulled over by a cop, you want to make sure your hands are visible. Yeah. First thing, right? And you want to make sure that even if you're nervous or if you're angry or you don't understand why you're being pulled over, you have to realize you do not have the power. That cop has the power.
And you use that smile.
You use that smile and you can say, excuse me, I'm not sure. I don't understand why I'm being pulled over. But you make sure your hands are out the window, or not completely out the window, but you rest them on somewhere where the cops can see them, so that way they know that you're not a threat, because they have to. I would imagine.
And another thing, when I heard him ask you about it, and you kind of rushed over it, but when I saw, when you see the police chief, from that Ferguson situation, you see him on the TV explaining what happened. Me reading body language, I think he looks like a liar. I don't think he looks very honest. What I mean? What did you get when you take it? That do you not want to comment on it because it's controversial, or?
It has nothing to do that I don't want to comment it. I'll talk about anything. I just have to know what you're talking about, and I don't know this police chief that you're talking about.
Ferguson, when they interviewed him, he had lots of interviews on CNN and different things like that.
She didn't comment on it.
He looked worried. He didn't look totally honest. He didn't look confident. So. He didn't, he would be a terrible politician. He was stuttering,
Well,
what did you take from that? I heard what you said about, the right.
All right. 680-730-1021. You also have to kind of listen sometimes, because she didn't comment because she didn't see it. Do you have a body language question for Blanca Cobb? Turn on your radio, please.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Will you guys touch base briefly on eye contact? Yeah, I know that you mentioned that there's no evidence-based research that shows that you can kind of identify who's lying by their eye movements. Mm-hmm. But what do you call it if, and I guess I'm speaking more on the status of relationships.
Yes.
When you can just tell, that somebody's lying to you by the look in their eyes. Not necessarily the movement, but the feeling or that you can get by just looking in their eyes. Is there anything evidence-based in relation to that?
No, there isn't. But you get somebody's baseline. So what I'm saying is, even though there's no research to support eye movement or how long someone looks at you before they look away, whether it means that they're lying or not, there are liars out there who won't look at you in the eye. But what I'm trying to do is just debunk the myth that just because someone doesn't look at you or turns away from you when they're giving you an explanation doesn't necessarily mean that they're lying. Okay. So
it's not a blanket ideal, but once you get that person's baseline, you can kind of determine whether or not you believe them, is what you're saying.
If you, for example, let's say you have a romantic partner and your partner normally looks at you in the eye. Okay, 90% of the time. But then you talk about a certain topic or you ask a question and that romantic partner of yours refuses to look you in the eye. That's a difference in the baseline. And then it's like, whoa, wait a second. Why? And you think,
so even though you may feel like it's the way that they look, it's really the behavior that you're picking up on.
Absolutely. And one thing to keep in mind is you want to look at clusters. We read body language differences in clusters. So you want to look at 2 or 3 because we're not robots, which means we're not going to stand still and only talk in one tone of voice. That something is going to get our attention, or we're going to have an itch. We're going to scratch our arm, right? Because we're not robots. So that's why you just don't give too much credence just to one body language difference. We really look for 2 or 3 or more.
And if that same pattern continues to happen, then that may be an indication that, something's not right here.
Yes, and what I tell a lot of my coaching clients is if it's a sensitive subject, you can drop it. So let's say you're noticing with you have a partner who normally gives you eye contact, but then you bring up a subject and your partner doesn't look at you anymore or tries not to look at you. You can drop it and then go back to it later on, whether in that same conversation or later on in the day or a different day completely. If it's still if it is a sensitive subject for this person, that person is still going to show you some of those behaviors. It may not be the same ones, but when you bring up the topic, you'll notice a difference in their normal body language. And that's a cue. It's a sensitive subject, and there is something behind it.
Well, that's really good advice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call.
Have a good day.
Thank you for calling up. 680-730-1021. Please turn on your radio. Do you have a question on body language for the body language expert, Ms. Blanca Cobb?
Yes. Does she have a book, or can you tell us something about the basics that we can learn from?
That's a great question. No, I don't have a book right now. I'm moving in that direction. There are some great books out there that I can give you. Janine Driver has a book on body language. So does Joe Navarro.
Okay. So I can just Google body language and maybe.
What are the names of those books? Do you have it off the top of your head?
Janine Driver has You Say More Than You Think. Joe Navarro has What Everybody Is Saying. I think that's right. Or What Your Body Is Saying, or What Everybody Is Saying. But Joe Navarro. Something like that. But if you Google it, it'll come up. Those are some pretty popular books.
Okay, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for calling. We have another caller that's coming up, 680 or 730-1021. Turn on your radio really quick. Do you have a question for the body language expert, Ms. Blanca Cobb?
Okay, what was the question she had? What was
No, we were seeing if you had a question. Okay, you don't. So let's move forward with this. I had a question for this. Have you ever been a part of maybe any police investigations where maybe somebody needed to take a polygraph, or instead of taking a polygraph, or along with the polygraph, they had somebody like yourself to sit in and see if this person is all the way telling the truth based on their body language? Or have you been a part of something where you've had to, figure out, okay, there's somebody a part of this negative thing that's going on, whether it's some stealing or, some sort of underhanded thing going on at any company or any official police investigations?
No, nothing with official police investigations. Okay. No, that doesn't mean I don't have cops calling me asking my opinion.
Yeah.
That does happen on a frequent basis. But no, I haven't done any law enforcement work. I have done private investigations with companies.
Okay.
Along with Janine Driver and our other colleagues at the Body Language Institute. And what's happened is that they want to keep it in-house. So the owners of the companies want to keep the investigations in-house, figure out how both of them involved theft, or the ones I'm thinking of involved theft, that who was doing it, who had access, who had motive, And that's where our team came in to figure it out. And then the owners of the companies wanted to make a decision whether they wanted to bring the police in afterwards.
What's the process with that, and what's the success rate like for something like that?
The success rate is pretty high, so I don't have a number to give you, but it is pretty high because you're looking. What you do is you have a team of us where we can figure out where the hot spots are when there's more to a story,
right.
And it's getting in to the nitty gritty and figuring out who's telling the truth and who isn't, and then from there. Normally, we get a confession.
Okay, that's awesome. 680 or 730-1021. That person does not have a question because they hung up on it. So that's pretty interesting that you do something like that. So somebody who's listening, maybe they are in HR at a company, and maybe they want to have something like this going on. Or maybe there's somebody who wants to be a better speaker, and they want to. How can somebody get in contact with you, and what all do you help people with?
I help people in any aspects of life that involve another human being.
Everything.
Yeah, with everything. I mean, I customize my coaching packages. I mean, I'll have attorneys call. They want to understand their clients better. They want to know when someone is telling them the truth. What are the hot spots for them, right?
Yeah.
For them to be more effective, they have to be able to see through those lies.
Yeah.
They have to know where the truth lies.
Right.
Okay. How do they read potential jurors?
That's a good one.
Yeah. I have people calling, parents wanting to read their teenagers, to reconnect with their teenagers, to figure out when their teens are really going to a friend's house or whether parents are going to be home at said party.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I know that's a huge thing, parents, in their relationship with their kids, whether they're teenagers or not. And sometimes, you don't know what somebody else's motive is, and what are some ways you've maybe helped some people out with that, understanding their kids a little bit better?
One, I tell parents, it's a fine line, because as a parent, most parents, and I always have to qualify this. I used to be able to say every parent, but that's not true, because we know there's so much neglect and abuse that goes on. But most parents who really, truly love their kids want what's best for their kids. And so you have to draw this line of letting your child or children find independence, but then you still want to guide them in the right way. And it's finding that balance. And here's the deal with teenagers and adolescents. They only think about the here and now. They don't think about the implications of their behaviors. They do what feels good and what feels right and what their friends are doing and how they're being influenced. And they don't think about the long-term implications, like I just said. So as a parent, you have to do this balancing act. And it's finding ways to reconnect. Because what happens is now we have a lot of two parents who work, both parents who work.
Right.
And as teenagers get older, they kind of stay away from their parents. They push their parents away a little bit. And developmentally, that's appropriate to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But I always tell parents, you have to protect your kids from themselves sometimes, because they're going to make poor choices. And it's how to reconnect. So you have to leave all the electronics to the side and really cultivate some time where your kid is looking at you and saying, okay, my mom and dad's really getting me. They're understanding me. And it's so hard because as parents, you feel like you've already played this game, right? It's just different players. You already know how the game plays. You know how it's going to turn out. But your kids have to learn for themselves. And it's about guiding them and reconnecting with them. And you can do it without a lot of words, because kids will tune you out.
Yeah.
They'll totally tune you out. Look at this glassy look over their eyes, and they'll look at you, but it's not sinking in.
Have you ever spoken to a client and they're always wondering, how can I figure out somebody else's body language, because this is happening to me or this is happening to me? And you've had to tell them straight up, well, maybe you want to fix something that's going on with your body language. Maybe something that you're doing is triggering something in somebody else. Is that happen?
Absolutely. That happens a lot. It's an ebb and flow. It's a conversation. So we either have a good conversation or you have an argument with somebody. It's what you're throwing down, whether they're picking it up, right? So it goes both ways. So you always have to look at your behavior and their behavior, because you have to see how you're contributing to it.
Okay, so I have to ask you this.
Yep.
I feel like, for me personally, there's a lot of people love, I get people coming up to me at the gym a lot. And, hey, are you the guy from, WXI or whatever.
Oh, it's not because your buff muscles there?
No, I don't. I don't look the most impressive in the gym at all. I might look the most impressive in the room, but not this room. I didn't mean it like that. But like if I go into a room somewhere, but but not at the gym. But people come up to me very easily.
Yeah.
But then I noticed maybe after a while that some people may kind of shy away from me. But then I'll have a certain situation where, like, my coworker Vita right here, who's coming up next on 102 JAMZ, when we first met, she said she felt like I was a little standoffish, or maybe that I was a little kind of stuck up. Isn't that what you kind of said? But then we've known each other for about a year now, and so now she's like, "Oh man, you're so cool and you're so laid back. You're totally different than what I thought you would be." How can I figure out what am I doing to get these different reactions from people?
It's two things.
Okay.
One, everyone has biases.
Yeah.
All right. And stereotypes and prejudices and personal experiences from other people. And that will cloud you. And you will look through. Yes, it will. She's looking at me like I'm crazy right now.
No, because she had a prejudice based on how I look.
Yeah. See, it happens.
Yeah.
You have to look at each person as a blank slate.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to forget about, I heard that.
She said I'm light-skinned, so you can't trust me.
All right.
That's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother straight talk.
It's going to get contentious. However, as I was saying, you have to look at each person as a blank slate.
Right.
Because the biggest thing that gets in your way of accurately understanding someone and understanding body language and interpreting correctly is the baggage that you bring into the relationship. Absolutely. Whether it's with somebody else, whether this person looks like, sounds like, does something that is similar to somebody who you don't like, who burned you in the past, that rubbed you wrong, and you bring it, you can totally ruin a potentially good relationship.
You're bringing that Southern Virginia baggage up in here, Vita. Well, we got to put a bow on this and wrap it up. You got a question?
She's got a question.
Come to the mic. People can.
Language expert.
Yes.
So all the way down to your pinky toe, you can tell.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I always tend to take pictures like with one of my feet up, like I'm a ballerina. What does that mean? No, I can show you.
Sexy.
Is that what it means? Like, look.
She's showing her a picture from her phone.
Yeah, that's just sexy.
See that, guys? I'm sexy.
She's sexy. She's showing it in the pictures.
Well,
let me say one last thing about feet. Feet, believe it or not, are the most honest part of your body. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you're talking to somebody, you're really looking at somebody from the neck up.
Yeah.
Because once you start looking at shoulders, and I'll start looking at your pecs and down your arms, and then, going all the way down, then people start interpreting that as like, ooh, she's like really into me. Let me get off this radio, right? We're going to go to breakfast after this, after we wrap up, It really becomes sexual. People always concentrate on what they're trying to say and what facial expressions they put out. So what happens is their feet and the body starts turning away. And when it starts turning away, it's letting you know, I'm not interested in you now. You got to wrap this up.
So the feet.
Yeah.
The feet.
I heard that if I'm having a conversation like you just said.
Nobody can hear you, Vita.
Yeah. And I need to see your feet if we're talking about it.
I can't, my feet. Okay. So I heard that if you're having a conversation and my feet are pointing towards you, whether I'm sitting up or sitting down, I'm interested.
Absolutely.
But like you just said, when I start doing one foot this way and one foot the other way, then it's like, all right, I'm ready to go now.
Exactly. We do it all the time. Because, when you're starting to talk to somebody and you're moving a little bit, you see what I'm doing? And they don't get the hint that I got to go. That's what we're trying to be polite.
Yeah.
And sometimes people miss it.
Well, get real quick, because Vita has to get on the radio and do her thing.
I don't want to go. I want you to stay forever.
Brian will kill me if you don't get on. Tell us really quick, how can we get in contact with you if we want to learn a little bit more about body language and maybe have some potential coaching?
Go to my website, BlancaCobb.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Google+. Everything is Blanca Cobb. Come find me. I would love to connect. I talk about everything and anything, whether it's appropriate or inappropriate. I'm all about scandal and inappropriate conversations because that's how I learn about how people deceive other people.
Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep you in the front of my mind.
Good. I like that.
Whenever something big comes up, another scandal, I want you to watch it this time. We're going to come have you on and talk about it.
Definitely let me know ahead of time so I can see it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much.